Okay, guys, Title Tuesday, I had the opportunity to play Eric, and of course, I had to use our Pirc Defense. Now, notice that he started with d4, so if anything, we're getting into a King's Indian defense, but then after e4, we transpose into the Pirc Defense. Now, pay attention, guys, because again, we little by little transpose into different variations, or at least it seems like we were gonna get in a different variation. So right now, classic variation with knight f3, but then I see bishop f4. And we learn, guys, any indication that they're going to castle to the queen side, we do c6, leverage pawn, queen a5, because it looks like they're going to castle to the queen side. Then all of a sudden, they do bishop d3. I still don't know where they're going to castle, but with a3 already played, and then before, I already knew he was not going to castle to the queen side. So I'm fine castling king side. My queen is on c7, ready to do e5. And guys, at this point, all of you following our course should be more than familiar with this position. First, we talked about it on lesson 51, the check Pirc, not as good as a regular Pirc in my opinion, but we talked about these plans. e5, this is a hyper-modern opening, so we have to sooner or later strike the center. And now with knight h5, I'm just trying to remove that bishop. Sometimes we even go knight f4, trying to open up our diagonal for the diagonal for our bishop. But in this case, I decided to just chop it off. It's too powerful. Let me get rid of it. Now, the next plan, guys, again, we talked about it. We've talked about it multiple times. Rook e8, mainly to do knight f8, knight e6, and finally knight to d4. Now, all of these, notice that I'm not using a lot of time because we know all of these plans, guys. With these openings, we do not have to memorize a lot of theory. We just need to know the typical plans in the middle game. So 96, trying to preserve the pair of bishops. And if I give it up, it is going to be for their light square bishop. I don't want to be bishop e6, they take with the knight, and they keep their bishop on c4. So now I need to control my 7th rank, so I need to be very careful. And guys, the next maneuver that you're going to see, we learned it. Remember, we had a lesson where we learned from Dean and Kasparov. We learned to activate our bishop. Our bishop is pretty bad on g7. It is blocked by the pawn on e5. And up to lesson 160 something, we didn't know what to do with it. But recently we learned it. Now my queen is in trouble. It is hanging, so I don't want any knight d5 or knight b5 ideas. So I move the queen out of the C file, and then I'm going to find a way to activate my rook and activate my bishop. So there you go. Now I think there you go. Bishop f6. Remember, from here we could go to d8, we could go to b6, and the bishop that was doing nothing could become a really powerful bishop. And actually, I think that's what happened in the game. Now, at this point, I kept missing a really good move that I ended up doing it, and I think I did it in a couple moves. And I think it was, now my opponent made a mistake. So Eric did a5, which was a blunder. And guys, see if you can think of the next move. What would you do here as the black pieces? Well, the move that I had it for like 3 or 4 moves, and the engine keeps saying blunder, blunder until I did it. You see rook d4, great move, because now if the queen moves, I take the pawn on b4. If they take on d4, I take back, that knight has to leave, and I collect the pawn on e4 for free. And of course, my bishop becomes really powerful from that same diagonal. So here now I'm calculating. So you can see me there in the actual in the actual game, guys. I'm thinking, should I do queen takes queen or rook takes rook? And if I do queen takes queen, should I do rook c4 and put pressure on the c5 pawn? Or should I just simplify everything and go for an endgame where I have the bishop versus knight, but more importantly, my opponent is going to have weak pawns. And guys, we have had so many lessons on this topic. Isolated pawns, doubled pawns, bishop versus knight. You should be more than familiar with that. And sorry that I'm talking a lot, but this game, there's a lot that we have already covered in our lessons. So there you go. I'm still double checking everything. And finally, I went with bishop d8. Now, I'm still deciding, should I go bishop e7 and attack the pawn on c5 or the pawn on a5? Finally decided, my opponent said, you know what, instead of giving you the pawn for free, let me at least mess up your pawn structure. So there you go. Now, guys, I gotta tell you, this endgame, we're already getting to time pressure little by little. And even though we should be winning, you're gonna see how badly I played it. So, of course, time to start activating the king. And I gotta find a way in for it. So for a moment here, I thought, oh, maybe I want to go king f6, king g5, and go to the king side. But then you're gonna see that it wasn't clear what to do. You see there, I was ready to go f6, but I realized it's not gonna lead to too much. Now it paid off to be to have more time than my opponent in this position, because notice how he is playing fast. I know mistakes have to be happening, but still it is not so clear for me how to win. I'm thinking king d7, king c7, king b7, king a6, king b5, but of course my opponent also has his plan, right? So here, I want to leave this c5 pawn completely isolated, but not yet. I want to wait for the right moment. And if my opponent takes me on e5, my king takes, then my king gets really, really active. So f6, definitely it cannot be a good move, that f6, but so now we're both in time pressure. So I took c5, pay attention, it is isolated, and I'm trying to find a way for my king to go around. Is it the right plan? I don't think so. So here, guys, I think my opponent made a mistake. I wanted to go after the pawn. Of course, he's going to defend it. Then I realized my king is not going to make it. Okay, right here I had bishop b4. I didn't see it. And then my opponent ran out of time right around here. There you go. But guys, if you look at the evaluation, the engine said after I did king e6, it's completely even. So luckily for me, my opponent gave me a break. But if I had done bishop before, yes, we're completely winning, but I could not find the winning plan. So I got lucky on time. And anyhow, guys, I hope that you saw everything that we have talked about in our course reinforced here. And with that said, I will see you in our next video.